Good evening, fellow space engineers. Welcome back to the training ground. Today we'll be going over the Z25M, how to run it, what it does, and why you'd even want to use it compared to, say, the S25M. When you guys spawn this in, it should look about like this, everything down and stowed. First thing you'll want to do is head on over and hit the big red recovery button just one time, get the timer started, get all the controllers working, everything good to go. If you hop over into the basket, you'll get your Rover driving mode as the very first thing. The unit starts in 4-wheel steer on the hotbar of items 2, 3, and 4. 2 turns on the rear steer, 3 the front steer, 4 inverts the steer. So you get kind of a strafing or crab-like steering motion. Useful if you're trying to tram alongside of a building or something like that. Options 5 and 6, 5 is for the reactor to charge the batteries, and option 6 turns on and off the beacons down there, just in case the flashing lights are bothering you. Just like the other lifts in my collection, this one has 2 drive speeds depending on where the booms are at. Right now we're down and stowed. This would be the high drive speed. If we stop and raise the booms up a little bit, go back into driving, we are now in the low drive speed. Reason for this 2 drive speed system is, when you're down and stowed, you want to be able to get where you're going, but when you're up in the air trying to drive around at 80 feet, you don't want to be bouncing around, bouncing yourself off the world or tipping the machine over. With that being said, you can absolutely drive at full height and extension. That'll bring us to how to operate this guy to get it to full height and extension. So selecting option 1 in the main hotbar brings you into boom control mode. The normal operation keys W, S, A, D, Q, E, C space turn into boom controls. Now note they're only going to control this primary boom, the upper one where it says Z25 on the side. So W and S, boom up, boom down. E is for extend, Q for retract. A and D, A swings the machine in the clockwise direction, D for the counterclockwise direction, and C and space are for this small jib boom in between the primary and the basket or platform. Space lowers the jib, C raises it. That brings us to the next one. How do you operate that secondary boom, the little guy down there? That is 1 and 2, 5 and 6 on this hotbar. 1 and 2 control the lift. So right now 2 is on, and if we reverse the lift with 1, the secondary boom starts to raise up. Now notice basket's going down. You'd have to counteract that secondary movement by holding W to lift the primary up. Otherwise, that guy's just going to keep on pushing until you get right on into the ground, which we don't want. Okay, once that secondary is all the way up as it is now, you are able to extend it using 5 and 6. 6 turns the extension on and off, and 5 changes the direction. So pressing 5, we're now extending out and lifting up higher in the air. If we lift all the way up and extend all the way out, like this, you will still be able to drive even at the absolute fullest of extension. Pop out of here, back into drive mode, and you're driving. And now that we're up 25 meters, it's seems like we're moving kind of fast for being up so high. Whole lot different than down on the ground. But being all the way up like this brings me to the next point, the boom safety envelope. Now notice this is fully raised, but the booms aren't completely straight up and down. That's on purpose. If we lower the primary and then bring it back up, you'll notice that it stops. Now I haven't let go of W, it simply stopped itself. That is the maximum allowed angle for the primary boom, and the controls will attempt to stop you. You notice it kind of shakes. It will continue to go up a tiny bit at a time. If you sat here and held it forever, it would eventually go and tip the machine over, but that angle sensor is trying to stop you as much as it can. So how about that secondary boom down there as far as safety goes? Well, on the way up, as I mentioned, it'll only extend out once we are 100% up, and it's the same the opposite direction. It will only go down once it's retracted all the way in. And I can demonstrate that by trying to press 2 to turn that guy on to bring it down. It automatically turns itself back off. Now if we retract all the way in, bring the primary down a little for good measure here. Once it is all the way in, it will allow you to turn that on and bring it down. Now let's say you stopped here and we'll try to extend it out, because as you can see 6 is on, but if we try to change the direction, it comes out and goes right back in. Again, that's the safety system preventing you from flipping this guy over. Now, what if you are maxed out on the elevation for the primary and try to bring down the secondary? Well, same sort of thing. It won't let you go any further down because you're already at maximum angle, and lowering the secondary would continue to increase that angle, again, possibly flipping over the machine. So it's just not going to let you do that. So what if you're fully extended out, all the way raised up, you're working, doing whatever you're doing up here, and you're not paying attention and fall out? Well, assuming you survive the fall, how do you get it down? Well, you could come over to this programmable block, bring the primary down, turn it on, retract it in, retract the secondary, or there's this lovely red button here that'll do all that for you. Push that button, secondary comes in. As soon as that's in, primary starts to come in as well. Once the primary is all the way in, or just about, it should start to come down. There we go. Sometimes it will get stuck. If that happens, just hit the big red button again, and it'll come down. Lower the basket right on down to you. Now, anything directly below the basket, that sensor is going to pick up, which is how it knows to stop here down at the ground. But if you have anything down below the boom, it will not know to stop. It'll just cram into it and start picking the tires up off the ground. So do be aware of that. Make sure you're nice and clear when you go to lower this guy down. So how about not so level terrain? Well, anytime you're going uphill, downhill, across anything other than level ground, you want this boom completely down in and stowed, just like this. You can have the jib up as far as you want. That's not a problem compared to booms. Just booms completely down in and stowed. You are able to climb the 2x2x1 slope in Space Engineers. You will want to have basket downhill, kind of like we're doing here now. That front end's pretty heavy. It can bounce up and try to flip on you if you're going down, if that counterweight's downhill. Same thing coming down, keep the counterweight uphill, basket downhill, and you will have to be pressing forward just about the whole time to keep this guy in check, or else it will overspeed and bounce you pretty good when you come down. If you watched my video on the S25, you might be wondering, well, why would you want to use the Z25? They're both 25-meter lifts. What's the big deal? Well, let me show you something that the Z25 can do that the S cannot. And that's going to be working below the chassis or below grade. So with this machine, you can lift that secondary. Sure not to hit the machine with the primary while it's coming up here, or the ground in that case. And then you can extend out and actually work below the machine. So if you need to get under something like a bridge or just need to get down into a little bit of a hole, this machine will allow you to do that. As the S25, even though it will go a tiny bit below the tires, this one, if you're going below ground, is really the way to do it. So here's another situation in which you'd use the Z25 over the S25. The Z25 is able to extend out, climb up and over obstacles so that you can work safely on the other side. It's able to get into a lot more positions, get into a little bit narrow spaces that the S25 just can't reach into. Inside the control panel menu for the machine, you'll find on-off for the beacon lights, your primary extension, primary lift, secondary extension, secondary lift, which each can be turned on and off independently. Swing will allow you to rotate the turntable side to side. Don't need the wheels down here at the ground, so your aux power, you'll have to change from recharge to auto. If you do need to run the machine, if the batteries die out, you can switch that to auto and bring the machine down. Then, of course, switch it back to recharge once you're done. That way you don't find yourself completely dead the next time it happens. You have the ability to turn the engine or reactor on and off, and you have the option to move the jib, just in case you've fallen out of the machine when it's completely stowed, but the jib is too high up in the air to access. You can come in here, turn the jib on, and then reverse to get it to come down. Alright, that will conclude this training video on the Z25M articulated boom lift. If you guys have any questions or anything I missed, feel free to leave that in the comments section below. A link to this machine will be in the description. It's available on the Steam Workshop. There are a few more lifts in this series, so be on the lookout for more videos. A little sneak peek there. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.